Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of my lecture. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the third element of the res gestae doctrine. Do not forget that in my last class, I quoted about 3 cases for you. Agassiz versus London Tramway Co. that says that the statements made must be in line with that particular act. And then the second one, which says that the statement must be made by the actor, which has been taken away by the case of Aaron Folks, which says no, regardless of whether or not the statement was made by the actor, it can still be admissible. Now, in this particular episode, we will be talking about the third element, which is that the statement must be contemporaneous with the act. What does that mean? Let's go to my notes. This requirement of contemporaneity is the most important of all conditions. According to Cross, contemporaneity is the reason d'etre, pardon my French, but I think that it means is the most important factor of the exception, that's the res gestae rule, to the hearsay doctrine, in that the statement throws more light on the nature of a relevant act because of its proximity to it. The last condition is the most controversial of all the conditions governing the admissibility of statements as part of the res gestae. The decision that exposed the condition to so much controversy is the case of R versus Bedingfield, and I need you to know this. There are certain cases that you must know. Agassiz versus London Tramway, the first element, you must know that. R and Folks, the second element, you must know that. R versus Bennington, the third element, which is the locus classicus for the third element, you must know that. Now, in this case, the accused was charged with murder with cutting a woman's throat, and in his defense, she said that it was suicide. That means she committed suicide. The deceased had come out of the room where she was with the accused with her throat slashed, and she was able to say, "Oh, auntie, see what Harry has done to me." The court excluded the evidence of this explanation because the cutting of the throat had already been completed before the statement was made. The court held further that the statement was a mere narration of a transaction which was over and done with, and was consequently not admissible as forming part of res gestae. The court had applied what is known as strict contemporary rule, rationale being the elimination of fabricated facts. If a statement is made spontaneously without wasting time to think, the court is more likely to admit it. Now, according to the case of R and TEPER, it is necessary for the words to, if not absolutely, be contemporaneous, or at least be closely connected with actions or events in time, place, or circumstance, such that they are part of the thing being done and can be presented as real evidence and not merely a reported statement. In the case of R versus CHRISTIE, the accused was charged with assaulting a boy. Few minutes after the alleged assault, the boy pointed at the accused in front of the man and police and said, "This is the man." The court rejected this, that it was said after the act. In the case of R and TEPER, the accused was charged with arson against his own shop. 26 minutes after the fire started, a woman shouted, "Your place is burning and you are going away from the fire." This was rejected by the court on the ground that it was not strictly contemporaneous with the act. Now, this is, quite complicated. We are talking about a particular rule, the res gestae doctrine, and that, according to what I said previously, is a statement. Now, a statement was said, and it was said concerning a present act and not a past act. As in the case of Agassiz, if it was a past act, it is inadmissible. Now, when the statement was said, the court in R and Bedingfield said, if this statement is not said while the transaction is going on, the statement will not form part of res gestae doctrine. Now, I'm trying to logically look at it, which means when they are cutting your throat, you should be shouting, "Hey, they are about to kill me!" Because if you don't, what you have said would not form part of res gestae doctrine. Do you understand that? It would then mean that any other thing said before the slashing of your throat, said after is slashing of your throat, would not be res gestae doctrine. That's what the court in R and Bedingfield said. They said, oh, the deceased said, oh, auntie, see what Harry has done to me, after the throat has been clearly slashed. And then the court is saying he must have, or she must have, manipulated facts, evidence. Somebody's about to die, the throat has been slashed, and he said that there's a tendency that I would have manipulated evidence. Court. But then that's the court. If you look also at the case of R and CHRISTIE, they follow the rule in R and Bedingfield. Now there, a man finished assaulting a boy, and then minutes later the boy, saw a policeman and then pointed at the man and said, this is the man, in front of the policeman. And then the court said, no, that testimony has to be excluded as part of ESA. It cannot fall under the doctrine of res gestae. Why? Because the boy did not say it when the act was being committed. That's the act of the assault. He said it after the act, and therefore cannot form part of res gestae, following the rule in R and Bedingfield. It has to be strictly contemporaneous. That means the act must follow the statement. The statement cannot come after the act has been done. Just like we have in the case of R and TEPER, where someone burnt his shop, and then 26 minutes later someone said, Oga, see your shop, they burn now. And then the court said, no, he did not say that at the time where he took out the act of burning his shop. He said it after he had done it, and therefore that cannot form part of res gestae. And I'm like, isn't this too strict? Do you understand that as lawyers, isn't this too strict? Don't you think there's a better way we can do this? But let us look at the civil aspect of it. Now, the common law courts were, however, more liberal when it comes to civil cases. In the case of Davis versus FORTIER, the statement, I shouldn't have done it, was made by the deceased 2 minutes after he had fell into acid, which killed him. The court held that it was within the contemporaneity rule, which would not obviously have been the case if it was a criminal case. That's under the old rule, that's the strict contemporaneous rule. But why the insistence on strict contemporaneity? The reason was explained in the case of THOMPSON versus TRAVENUM. Now, before victims had time to devise or construct anything for their own advantage, the court are trying to prevent the possibility of fabrication of facts. So here you have it. The court in THOMPSON and TRAVENUM said, no, the reason the court is trying to do this is because as at the time the act is going on, at that point the only thing your head is thinking is, who is this person doing this thing to me? Do you understand? So your utterance at that point is from the heart. It's not from your head where you'd have thought about it. It's from your heart, But where the act has been concluded, that there's likelihood that the victim is going to fabricate facts, or anybody around will fabricate facts. Do you understand? Like, let us go to the case of R and Folks. R and Folks talks about, the statement must be made by the actor, and, it takes away the previous rule. But in that R and Folks, the person who said it was the son. The son said, this is butcher. Now, he said it while the party was about to shoot. Immediately he said, this is butcher, the party shot. That is the Vin Diesel. Shot. Do you understand? Now, according to the common law courts, they would say, oh, that is strictly contemporaneous. But where you are saying it significantly different, like in time from, or in circumstance or in place, after the act has been done, then the court is less likely under the strict contemporaneous rule to admit it as evidence. Do you understand? And that is where we are going to end the lecture for today. In my next lecture, we will talk about what is the difference between the old rule, that is the strict contemporaneous rule, and now the sufficient contemporaneous rule that is being practiced under the common law courts today. And that's what we'll be discussing in my next lecture. See you in my next lecture.